Before the lockdown, a friend of mine who works in the health sector said to me, Aya, we're exhausted. The hospital wards are already full. If the country remains open any longer, we will have many more patients. Deaths will also increase. The leaders in our country don't understand our situation. They don't see the suffering of the people in the wards. They only want money, so they won't lock down the country. When I listened to his words that day, I agreed with him. A few days later, the country was locked down. During that time, another friend came close to my house. He's a daily wage earner. From the road, he looked at the jack tree in my house and said, "We don't have any work now. There is no rice in my house. Can I take a jackfruit for my family?" The ones who decided to lock down the country do not feel our hunger. I nodded my head in agreement. My parents are also weak and live alone in my village. I really want to go and visit them, but how can I since the country is locked down? There are no answers. I blame myself. What a hypocrite am I? If the country is kept open, I grumble. If it is closed, also I grumble. It seems like we cannot take any firm decisions today. Today we will be meditating on Psalms 39. In verses 1 and 2, David says, "I will watch my ways and keep my tongue from sin. I will put a muzzle on my mouth as long as the wicked are in my presence. I was silent and still, not even saying anything good." But waiting without saying anything good did not help David. He says later, "My anguish increased. My heart grew hot within me, and as I meditated, the fire burned." David seems to be very confused. Throughout the psalm, he says that God is his hope. However, he also sees the pain and suffering that he's going through as God's punishment. And at the end of the psalm, David asks God to look away from him so that he can rejoice again. David seems to be very disoriented. His thoughts are muddled. During the pandemic, do we also feel like that sometimes? We struggle to think clearly and make good decisions. Everything is changing and it's hard to make firm choices. This is true for all our decisions, from the complex decisions like whether to lock down the country or not, to the personal everyday choices that we have to make. Nothing is black or white. Everything is grey. David struggled with his choices. We also struggle with our choices today. Because of the great knowledge that we have today, we think we can make clear, rational, and correct decisions always. We think that we own the world and that we know everything. However, David seems to have had a different perspective. He considered himself an alien and a stranger in this world. David seems to be saying that as a stranger, he doesn't know everything about the world. He's dependent on God's grace and kindness. With all the confusion that is present today, it is hard to take any firm decision or know whether our choices are right or wrong. It pushes us to recognize that we are not the owners of this world. We don't have all the answers. Perhaps that perspective and God's grace is what we need most during this time.
Hear my cry.